What's up, baseball world? Welcome along to another edition of Jay's Talk with Jay. What a week it has been so far. Series win over the Yankees, series sweep over Miami, even though it was only a 2-game series. What else have we had? We've had another start from Alek Manoah. We've had Mummy Manoah. We've had Simeon win Player of the Month. We've had the All-Star voting open. It's been an interesting week so far. I am joined by Rob from Blue Jay Center, and the champ is here. Sheldon joins us as well, the Kings of Trivia champion. Obviously, Steve couldn't be with us today. He's probably still recovering from his hangover. Boys, how you doing?
Not bad, man.
Not bad, Jay. I just had my COVID vaccine a couple days ago, so doing all right. Still no tail growing out, still no fish scales growing out. I'll be all right.
Which one did you get? AstraZeneca, Pfizer?
Derna gang, man. Derna. So I heard these side effects are a little worse for that one, but I've been handling it okay. Hopefully I'll be back on Fantake Friday tomorrow.
I'm getting mine on the 13th, so I'm supposed to get Pfizer. I'm hoping it's Pfizer.
Okay, enough COVID talk. However, you just mentioned something before we go anywhere. Fantake Friday. You guys made me wait up until 4:30 in the morning, and there was no Fantake Friday. What was that all about?
So that was in anticipation of the rain out, because we had word that game was probably not going to happen. I think a few hours before the game. Then it ended up did happen later on, and all of a sudden you had that big rain delay in the 7th inning. That whole confusion of, are we going to play? Is this game over? Is it not? So we just decided that all the viewers and the proportions are going to be thrown all out of sorts, and especially with all the Leafs type, we probably just wanted to take a break for a week, and we'll be back tomorrow though for sure. Don't worry, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and for sure all our fans will be happy.
I love staying up till 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning just to hear what you guys have to say. That's like hardcore. Like I'm in it. I'm in it for the long haul.
We really appreciate it, man. I mean, staying up till 4:30 to hear a bunch of amateurs talk about stuff that we have no idea what we're talking about is always appreciated.
Do you know what though? It's funny because I was actually thinking about this the other day. You guys might be amateurs, but I would rather, and I have been, especially over the last 2 months or so, I have listened to you guys more than I have listened to MLB.com, to the Fan 590. I can't listen to them. And a lot of them, they all have their own agendas, where you guys kind of like, when it's good, we'll say it's good, but when it's bad, we'll say it's bad. And the professionals, so to speak, or the ex-players or the ex-people that have been in and around baseball, they don't say it how it is, and I just get really annoyed. So like fair play to you all, to be fair. Like this, apart from one or two things where like Sheldon didn't want Manoah called up. Last week we thought, Sheldon, you're wrong. And then yesterday, maybe not so much. So like it does kind of swing both ways, right?
I think long haul, man. I think long term. No, you know what? It was just one of those games. Yeah, I mean, you can't be perfect all the time or near perfect. It was good. Thankfully it was against Miami that he got roughed up. Not against.
He wasn't bad though, was he? He wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's a learning curve for him, so it's good. And they won.
I thought there were kind of two issues. With the start yesterday. Two being one, that the velocity just wasn't quite there. We saw in his last start, the fastball hit 95 consistently. We saw a lot of 92s, a lot of 93s. And even in terms of his command, with 3 walks, and even on that slider, that it's kind of the pitch that's brought him up to this point, because we know that the fastball is there. It's got movement. But that wipeout slider was really what made him so successful in the minors, and he hung up quite a few of them. Most notably that one to Jazz Chisholm, I think it was, that he just left all over the plate. It was basically a BP fastball. But yeah, like you guys said, it was definitely he was going to get roughed up eventually, and hopefully this takes as a learning curve. And his next start against the White Sox, it looks like, a much deeper lineup than Miami. Hopefully you're able to bounce back.
No, I wasn't. I would rather that he got beat up yesterday, because we ended up winning the game. And I think that like the overall series, just showed what we can do against these teams. And it's no disrespect to Miami, but it just shows what we can do against the lesser teams. We didn't have a very, like, obviously the first game, we had a really good pitch outing from the starter, takes us deep. We score some runs. That's what we should be doing. But it just shows that when the starter only goes 3 innings or 4 innings, we've still got enough there in the tank. And yeah, all right, it was a little bit lucky, 9th inning, but we'll take them. And they're the games that we should be winning. If you go back to when we was losing against the Rangers at the beginning of the season, that's the kind of game we ended up losing. So it's good that he kind of got beat up in that kind of game. We can, because we've got a bit more consistency going. We've got players like Randall that, like, every time I start to think maybe we're going to start seeing Randall Grichuk, you know, the one that we know, he comes out and he has a really good game. And he seems to be doing that consistently. He hasn't gone 4, 5, 6, 7 games where he's played bad. It's literally 1 or 2 back in it. Vladdy, what can you say about Vladdy? The guy's gone and hit. He's got four hits in one game. He's gone 4 for 4, and then goes and gets his triple he needed for the cycle the next day. It's literally like watching a video game with him at the moment.
Yeah, of course. And first thing I want to say is that, yeah, you mentioned beating a team like Miami, who's not a great team. I think I can offer some pushback on that. Miami's actually been a really good pitching team this season. It's kind of their offense that's kind of tailed them down, unable to repeat that surprising out of nowhere performance from last year where they made it all the way to the NLDS. But the fact that they were able to get a couple runs off, their closer in that 9th inning, who's had a pretty good year up until yesterday, was definitely good. And as opposed to Randall Grichuk, I think this is kind of what we're going to get out of Randall Grichuk. This is who he's been his whole career. He's not necessarily a high on base guy. His on base has always kind of been in the, just over 300 to 310 range, but he's got a ton of power. He'll play serviceable defense. And so far, that's exactly what he's done this year. So I think the Randall Grichuk that we've seen up until this point, there's going to be ups and downs as there's always with him. But at the end of the day, the final product will kind of be around what we're seeing right now, which is home runs, strikeouts, good defense. And in the end, that's a pretty solid player to have in the middle to end of your lineup.
Yeah, I think this expectation that Randall's going to go into a little Randall Grichuk tailspin that we're all used to, I don't think it's going to happen now. I think he's kind of figured it out. It helps that he's not the man in the lineup or the big bat. He's surrounded by a whole bunch of big bats. And I'm just looking at his stats right now. I had no idea he was actually leading the team in double. So it's kind of, his numbers are sneaking up on a lot of people. We know about the home runs. We know about, we're looking at his batting average and his slugging. He's very quietly putting up a really, really good season. Hopefully he continues with it. Hopefully he doesn't go into a tailspin. But like what Rob said, man, that lineup is going to get, it's a lot deeper now. And, if he's a big bat at the middle to tail end of that lineup, that only benefits the Jays.
And also, too, don't forget as well that he wasn't even supposed to be an everyday player coming into this season. So his performance has really bailed this team out, because we talked about this outfield being their source of strength coming into the year. And with Lourdes Gurriel kind of struggling for the most part of the year, although lately he has been hitting well, which is very welcome sight. And George Springer, we know the case with him being that he just has played 15 innings all year long, it seems like, in mid-June, or beginning of June now. They really needed this production out of Grichuk, and I'm not sure where this outfield would be without him, because not only have the guys who we expected to perform have either been hurt or underperformed, but the depth has also not been all that great either, because outside of your 4 outfielders that you have on the roster, there's a lot of Jonathan Davis, Josh Palacios, a lot of unknowns. So the fact that you've been able to get consistently solid performances from Randall Grichuk and obviously Teoscar Hernandez kind of repeating a lot of what we saw last year has been absolutely huge for this outfield.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was listening to about the outfield. It might have been Blue Jay Sentinel a lot yesterday, but they were talking about the outfield. It might have been Luis, Luis with his stats and his knowledge. But I think somebody mentioned about, like, it's very underrated. And from what we've
I think that was actually Marlon's network who came on our show.
yes, you're
Yeah.
right. Really sounds like a really nice guy as well, by the way. I was like, it's nice to see someone come
Oh, of
on
course.
and not give it. So like, fair play to him. He came on, team got swept, obviously only 2 games, but even still, and it must have been soul destroying going into the 9th. And he's thinking, I'm going on Blue Jay Center and I'm going to give it to them. And then it's like, hi, we lost. I don't know what to say. But yeah, like our outfield, especially over the last, I would say the last 4 weeks, have been really good. And if you look at the production that's come from them offensively, bearing in mind they're not making many mistakes in the outfield, unlike the Marlins to the right fielder yesterday for Vladdy's triple. They said that he lost the ball in the lights, and I was like, no, because he put his glove down. The lights don't shine from the floor. I don't know what they were talking about, but they've been. I think the outfielders have been really good, and obviously with the amount of power that all 3 of them have, I think that they're one of the strongest outfielders in the American League at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've been saying coming into the year. How adding Springer, who, again, we haven't seen in a whole external sample yet, but Teoscar, we know that he's got the potential to hit 30 home runs if he's healthy. Randall Grichuk, he's got that 25 to 30 pop as well. Gurriel, there's no doubt that this outfield had a lot of expectations coming in, especially with the amount of power that they have. And yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at kind of all the outfields around the league. I mean, obviously, Yankees with Aaron Judge in right field, that's always going to help them kind of near the top of the rankings, and Giancarlo Stanton as well. But I mean, you kind of look around the American League, and not sure there's any other outfield that comes to mind right now that has a whole lot more power than the Jays do.
Yeah, I think talent-wise, I think the Jays are probably the top 3. I mean, you can make a case for
at least offensively.
Yeah, offensively. I mean, you could make a case for the White Sox if they were fully healthy, but they're not because they've lost Robert and Eloy Jimenez for the year.
Yep.
Looks like. So right now, I can't see anybody comparable to those 3 or even 4 if you throw a healthy George Springer in there. So, we're just kind of waiting for Lourdes. I mean, Lourdes is getting hot. He's getting hot. This is June and July, and I've been saying hot takes all the time. But at the end of July, he might be very, very close, top 3 with the in home runs for the Blue Jays. He may overtake Teoscar. He may overtake Randall. He's going to get hot. And
you said he was going to overtake Vladdy. You see how you left him out of that?
No, I never said he was going to take. He'll come close to Vladdy. That's what he'll come close to Vladdy. But
he's got some legwork.
Yeah, but let's just see, man. Let's just see what happens, right? But right now, the outfield, and you throw in Simeon and Bo. That's a really big core of your offense, and they're all doing really, really well. So hopefully they can continue with it. It's been, especially Lourdes, doing his thing.
Just to branch away from the overall outfield in itself, I want to talk more about that game yesterday, just the overall game. To me, that felt like a one that they stole. And so many games that they lost in the past weeks. Obviously, that Rays series still feeling the effects of that gut punch, that 4-game sweep. But it just feels, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like they kind of stole that Cleveland game back to me, where you were up a big in the late innings and you blow that game. We'll know the story. And coming in yesterday against a good closer who had been good for pretty much the entire season and had a track record, and to win that game, it feels like you kind of stole one of those games that you lost earlier in the few weeks back.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. You're gonna lose games like that, but you're also gonna be able to steal games like that. And last night's game was a game where they were down and they came back and they stole it. So yeah, I agree.
I think throughout the season you'll find that does happen quite a bit, because there's plenty, especially with a team like the Jays, where if the pitching's not quite right, the bats sometimes don't wake up, and then you've got an issue. But look at that, like we were in it to the point where we just needed to score one more run. And that's it. And because the lineup is so potent at any point, 1-6, 1-7, it's interesting that Panic's hitting sixth, which puts Gurriel at 7, which brings the line. Was it Gurriel at 7? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Telez at 7 and then Gurriel at 8.
Yeah,
or was it the other way around?
No, you're right. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
But the even if Telez is batting 8th or Gurriel's batting 8th, you're basically saying that 1-8, which is what I've been dying out for, that 1-8 is our strongest possible batting lineup. Now, obviously, let's say Tellez isn't in there and Springer is back. Even if Springer only DHs for a month while he's getting back to playing, imagine how deep our lineup is. At some point, you are going to score a run.
Yeah,
and that's
of course. I mean,
and
that's
even crazy.
And even with like Springer out, this lineup is still. Look at the month of May. They're number 1 in OPS in the month of May as a team. I think they're leading the league in home runs, or at least very close to it at this point. So you can talk about how good this lineup is when healthy. Even right now, with all these guys on the shelf, they've been pretty damn good as well. Unfortunately, the pitching that was so good early on has kind of leveled off, which we expected. I mean, you can only afford so many injuries in your bullpen until stuff kind of boils over. But for the most part, I think the offense has definitely ascended to what we thought it was, and the fact that it's not even in its full form is definitely encouraging.
Yeah, it's quite mad. Like I wanted to bring up Marcus Semien. Obviously, player of the month for May. I think that nobody could argue with that decision. I think we would have been very annoyed if he didn't get it, but with the numbers that he put up. Do we think that now it's June, we're going to see him fade slightly?
Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, you're just looking with the way he's playing. That power is legit, man. Even early in the year where he wasn't quite hitting, he still had the power. He still had the occasional home run. And I think we've kind of seen a bit of an extended sample of him being a really good hitter. Obviously, 2019 was still not that far away ago. And last year in the condensed season, he was injured. But for the most part, you look at his overall numbers, kind of excluding those 2 months of 2019, he's been a good hitter for quite some time now. So I'm starting to think that maybe we have some late career resurgence out of him. And, we saw that a little with Teoscar. I think he's 28 now. Last year was really the first year where he started becoming, a certified slugger. Obviously, going back a little further with Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion. I think that the way he's hitting and just his approach at the plate, I'm starting to think that it could be a little more legit. Now, is he going to put up an 1130 OPS in June? Probably not. But can he still be a very productive hitter? I absolutely think he can.
I think Simeon will slip a little bit. I think he'll drop a little bit, probably down to the 800s in his OPS. It's just natural.
Which is cool.
Yeah, which we can all live with. If he's able to continue and sustain this run of his, then I think the questions will start becoming louder and louder. Do you resign Marcus Semien? And the questions, then the other question would be, well, how much are you going to resign him for?
What's he on this? What's he on for this year? Do you know? Do you know off the top of your head what he's on?
18 mil.
1 year, 18 mil.
Okay. So my next question would be, with how he's performed for the first 2 months of the season, do you think the front office will look at tying him up before the end of the season? I've just got a sneaky feeling they might do it. I don't know why.
So I think the front office would absolutely love that. Marcus Semien is not signing in within the season. That's just not going to happen. He's going to the market, especially with the year he's having right now. You're never going to get full value within the season. That's just not something that happens in baseball. Well, anytime you go to market after having a season, because keep in mind right now, we're 2 months into the season. He's a 3.2 win player. I mean, I'm not sure what he's going to finish with, but if he becomes a 5-6 win player conservatively at the end of the year, you're talking about a guy who's probably going to get big Correa money. I mean, maybe not quite Carlos Correa, Trevor Story money because he's older than those guys, but he's going to get paid. He's going to get absolutely paid this free agency. And just from an agent perspective, I think he would be quite dumb to sign within the season. I think going to market is definitely what we're headed for. Unfortunately, because with the way he's playing, you would absolutely love to have that guy locked in, a staple in your lineup for years to come. But I'm just not sure how feasible that is.
Yeah, I think Simeon's going to go to free agency, and I think once Story's off the board, once Correa's off the board, once Seager's off the board, Baez most likely will probably go before he does. Then Simeon's going to be in the driver's seat, and whoever ends up losing, or any of those teams that end up losing to another team getting these elite shortstops, they're going to look at Simeon, and they may overpay. We may consider overpay. Get him. So if I was Marcus, go to free agency, man. See what you can get.
Hang
And
tight.
it might be a short-term deal. It might be it might be like a Donaldson type of a deal where it's like 4 years and 92, or it could be something along those lines, right? But it'll help him out. It'll work for him. It might be even more than that. It might be 4 years and 110 for all you know. Something similar to what Yoenis Cespedes got with the Mets a few years ago when he resigned. So if I was Marcus, I would just play the season out and go to free agency and see what happens.
I think the Donaldson comparison is a really good one because you remember that first year, that only year where he was with the Braves. I think he was a 6-win player in his age 33 season. So the fact that Simeon is 3 years younger than him, and the fact that he's had, because Donaldson, don't forget too, he had that one lost season in 2018, similar to what Simeon had last year. So I think that Donaldson one, that comparison that you made, Sheldon, is actually a really good one. I think he can probably get around something like that, if not even more.
Do we think he makes the All-Star team?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, right now he's a legitimate MVP candidate. I think All-Star is probably a pretty easy bet at this point.
Well, you say of course, but I've seen loads of people put on Instagram today. They've shown their screen with their voting and stuff. Like I know I know that I've done it in the past where it's like Blue Jay, like for every one of them. But I just want like is he the best second baseman out there at the moment?
Well, who else is out there in the American League right now? Just thinking off the top of your head. I mean Altuve, but
he's not. No,
he's not getting the general public's vote though, is he?
Yeah, he's not going to be getting the
public's. Absolutely
not. Nick Madrigal from Chicago, but he's kind of like a short second baseman type of. Oh, maybe. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head.
I think if you're just going by this season, then yeah, absolutely. I think he's absolutely the best second baseman in the American League so far through 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget too, I think one of the biggest compliments that we can give him too is that he's basically been invisible at second base, which is exactly what you need from an infielder. Just not be in the news, not have any one noticing. Just go out there, make the easy play, and that'll do it. You know, he hasn't exactly made a bunch of flashy plays, but you don't need to. You just got to make the basic play. And he's been a really solidifying force at them for second base. And the fact that we really haven't noticed him at all, I think that's a good thing. To me, it's kind of like the offensive lineman in football, where if you go through the whole game without anyone noticing you, you've done your job. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I see him as a defender.
Realistically, I think out of all of the players that have played the majority of the games this season, I think it's safe to say that we would pick Vladdy as an all-star first baseman. Yeah, like you'd have to be blind. You'd have to be blind and not watch baseball to not pick him. Like that's
the
how
MVP if the season ends today.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, a starter on an all-star team.
but that's my point. So I think Vladdy and Marcus. But like my question was going to be, who else? Like who else? Because we're quite biased when it comes to the Blue Jays. Apart from Sheldon, he maybe leans more to the Yankees. But just saying, man, don't get annoyed. But I think that Vladdy and Marcus for sure. But then I was trying to think, like, who else? Look here. Oh my God. What?
Oh gosh.
Is that you in disguise? Is it?
See, that doesn't say Yankees.
He's going to the other money market powerhouse. But anyway, to answer your question, I think as of right now, both Guerrero and Simeon are the obvious answers for All-Stars. I think, and I'm gonna go number 3. I think Hyunjin Ryu is probably a pretty obvious one as well. The fact that he's been able to stay healthy, and that was always the question with him. Like you're never worried about Hyunjin Ryu, the pitcher, because he's never been a guy who relies on velocity anyway. We always thought that he's going to age well, and if he's just able to stay healthy, he's going to be very effective. And so far this season has been no different. So I think you have, as the season ends right now, Guerrero's an All-Star, Simeon's an All-Star, and I'm trying to think who else. But I think right now those are 3 shoo-ins.
Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray could be on.
Possibly. It's possible.
But I think Robbie Ray might get. I mean, I've been saying that he is a possible All-Star, but he might get squeezed because of numbers. That might be it.
Here's one of my takes. I think Bo, he probably gets squeezed more so because we already have 2 infielders making the team. So I think having 3 infielders on the roster, that really hurts his chances. What do you guys think?
Just whether shortstop has been performing. I mean, Bogarts is going. We know Bogarts is going to make it.
Bogarts is going.
Tim Anderson. There's another one.
Yeah, but to me, it's always with Anderson. It's always the on base man. He's a guy who the casual baseball, and not to say he's not a great player because he is, but I think the casual baseball fan tends to overstate how good he is because they still care about batting average. I personally don't.
There's nothing wrong with batting average. Young people these days talking about tracking batting average.
That's my one bone to pick. That's my one bone to pick with Anderson. But yeah, he's definitely going to make it as well, especially that White Sox team. They were my World Series pick, so
what about Randall? Does Randall have a shot, like realistically? Or is he just not like, forget about his name. I'm talking about like getting there on merit, not by name, because we all know that there's players in the outfield that will get votes because of who they are. Doesn't necessarily mean their numbers are anywhere near what his are.
But who are we talking about though? Because I think Aaron Judge he's better than Grichuk. I think Stanton is better than Grichuk. I think you look at the other guys. I mean, I think to me Randall, he's had a good season considering the circumstances, but I don't think I'd go as far as to say he's been an all-star.
But he might be one of those guys.
You think the other two, but the 2 that you mentioned, I'm just saying that you mentioned, you think that they've had better seasons so far than he has?
I think so. I think Aaron Judge at least has, but I'm not. Stan, he's been hurt a while, but I think it's at least comparable. Once again, I think the batting average. Should Springer
be in the All-Star team? I'm just saying, I'm not trying to cause an argument here, but I don't know. I look at this voting sometimes, and I just think to myself, it's more the name than it is the performance.
What could end up happening with Randall Grichuk is he could go into the All-Star game or get selected into the All-Star game, like how Michael Saunders was selected, where they had that last pick.
Yeah,
and he might be able to get in that way. It depends on who he's up against too, right? I mean, is Randall a definite no? I'm not saying a definite no, but he's a lot further away than, he's definitely a lot further away than Robbie Ray. He's definitely a lot further away than Bo. He might be even further away than Teoscar.
I think he is. Yeah. I think he is.
So, and again, it's not taking anything away from Randall. It's just that he's having a very, very good season in a year where it may not be enough to make the All-Star team.
No, it's going to be interesting to see who actually does make it. And I would be interested to see how many Astros players actually make the team.
It'll be one.
Who?
There will be one. Yeah. Springer. I mean, that's the minimum you can have anyway, right?
Everyone's going to have one, but I think they're going to have multiple. They're a good team. To me, I think Houston's been one of the most underrated teams. They're the best team in that division, in my opinion.
I say 2.
I don't think Oakland. I don't think Oakland's legit. I don't. That run differential, man. That run differential is too much for me to overlook, man. They've been too much of a roller coaster. I think 26-man roster to 26-man roster. I'm taking the Astros.
Oh, I mean, talent-wise, the Astros have more talent, but I think this is going to be like the revenge of the fans. They're just going to, if they can purposely not have them on the team, they're going to try to. But if I'm not mistaken, Correa is having a good season. Yuli Gurriel was having a really great season. I'm not sure where he is at right now, but his numbers were literally off the map at one point. So I would probably lean towards Gurriel making it, but maybe Correa. That's about it. I can only see two at the moment. I mean,
How about Bregman?
Bregman could actually, Bregman could probably get in there because who's his competition at third? Cabin. So yeah, I think Chapman's been hurt too much. Chapman's not really been that guy. So yeah, maybe it might just be Bregman.
They'll probably get some pitchers into. Their pitching staff has been really good, especially with the Verlander being out for pretty much the entire season. That they've been impressive for sure.
So talking Astros, obviously they're coming up. Where do we think this goes? Because we've already played them, and we were slightly disappointed not to come away with the series win, right? So I'm just trying to make sure that that's actually right. Is that right? It was, yeah. They ended up. Yeah. So I think we're in a better place than when we played them before, and the fact that it's in our home, our home from home at the moment. I can see us definitely giving them a run for their money. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the Jays and the Astros are quite similar teams this season. You kind of look at them; they're both prolific lineups. They have one of the best numbers offensively, one of the best OPSs, slugging percentages out of all teams, and their pitching, just like the Jays, has been good, above average, not necessarily elite, but has certainly been good considering that the injuries that they've sustained. I think these are two of the most really similar teams. If I were to compare them both, I think Houston, the one, I guess, up on us that they have is that they're a better fielding team. Overall, I think these are very evenly matched teams, and the fact that we do have Ryu going for us tomorrow, I guess it's going to be a big series. If the Jays can take 2 out of 3, that's going to be a huge win. In my opinion, if we can win 2 out of 3 against Houston, that kind of offsets the Red Sox series that we lost a week ago. So 2 out of 3 is the goal for sure. And if we do that, you can be very happy with it.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So I think the Jays have they're in a better mindset now, especially with their pitching, their starting pitching starting to kind of calm down a little bit and not so much worrying about who's going to be where and who's going to be starting. Just having Manoah and, Strickland. Strickland's pitched well, man. He's not pitching poorly, so
yeah,
it gives him a chance, it gives him a shot, right? So I think there's a little bit more confidence in their starting staff. I think there's a little more confidence in the Jays overall because now they don't have to think, they don't have to worry about things, or if it's playing on their mind who's starting. I honestly, I'm gonna give you guys a hot take. I think they're gonna sweep it. I think the Jays are gonna. And if I'm wrong, it's all Jay's fault because Jay has to take some responsibility for this.
Rob, just remember, last Sunday, Kings of Trivia, he didn't get many wrong.
You didn't get many wrong. That's absolutely right. Just like
I could not sleep at night when I got that Rico Cardi one. I actually had to go online to find out just to double check because I could have sworn I was right and I was dead wrong. And I could not sleep.
Just like the Astros, I think Sheldon puts the cheat code in trivia. Cheat code in trivia.
Trash can.
Look, I think for those who are, Ross Stripling is going to be very interesting to watch. The last couple outings have been outstanding. Not just outstanding given the circumstances. He's been outstanding, period. Whether it was that 7 scoreless innings against Tampa and that good start against Cleveland.
Let me just stop you just quickly.
Yeah.
We're complaining now that he's being taken out of games.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said in our group chat. I said we were ready to shoot Stripling to the moon a week ago, and now we're complaining that he's not keep continuing in the game. It's ridiculous how quickly we've overlapped in a matter of just a week. I think this start on Saturday against Houston, it's going to be the second time he's seen them this year. A great lineup. There's no reason why Houston can't absolutely shell him. If he has a good start, I think we got to start looking at this. This could be somewhat legit. I think I'm really looking forward to his start on Saturday.
I like to go on record.
The one thing, just quickly, it's my show. Zach can't interrupt you, but I can. Just quickly, it's amazing what a bit of routine does as a whole. Now that they know you're going to be pitching this day, you're going to be pitching this day, and they have 5 guys. There's none of this TBD nonsense. And I think psychologically that works with the offense as well, because I mentioned it a few weeks back when they've got no faith in the pitcher when Tanner Rourke was pitching, for example. It's like they'd given up already. They seem to like now, and yesterday was a classic example. Manoa's gone out there. He never had his stuff. Like, I'd say he never had his stuff. He didn't have his good stuff.
Yeah.
But yet the offense picked up. We still had a decent amount of hits. So I'm quite confident. Go on, Sheldon. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sorry, really, but carry on.
Remember, I was the one who said Strickland was going to pitch well in that 7-inning thing he did.
And I still haven't seen Rob wear a Yankees hat.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, God, guys are pathetic. And then I kind of said,
that ain't happening, man.
And I said, you know what?
There ain't no bet.
And then I said he was going to pitch well again. And I'm going to go and say, I'm actually going to say, you know what? He's Strickland in his start against the Astros will give you 5 innings, give it probably 2 runs, but it's going to be one of those grinded out starts for him where he's going to probably exhaust 90 to 100 pitches in those 5 innings, but 2 runs, I'm going to take it. So that's where I'm going to go with that.
I think you're doing cartwheels if he can give you 5 innings and just 2 runs against. Sorry to take one from Pat Tabler's playbook, but yeah, you'll be doing cartwheels if that happens for sure.
But it's Ryu pitching first, then Stripling, then Mats.
Correct.
So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then who are we facing after that? Chicago.
Yes, that's going to be a tough series in Chicago as well.
So we'll talk about the White Sox in a minute, but you just mentioned something while we were off air, so it makes it sound cool, doesn't it? You said about the feeds. So I was watching the other day, but my MLB account would not let me access the game on my Fire Stick for some reason. So I switched over and I found a stream that had the other commentary. So it would have been I'm trying to
Miami?
think. Yeah, it might have even been a few days back, but it was quite funny to actually watch a Jays game without the Jays broadcasters, and they have no time for Canada, right? they haven't. Not only do they have no time for Canada, it was like the Jays weren't playing. We won the game, but it was a very, very strange feeling. That, bearing in mind, I always watch if I'm watching. I have an app on my Fire Stick that enables me to watch the Sportsnet channels. And then obviously most of the time I watch the game just through MLB.com just because it's just easy. It's easier. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever do that again.
How come? What happened?
Just I know that being a home broadcaster, you end up speaking about the home team a hell of a lot more, and that's where it's focused on. And I get it because it's a broadcast, especially for that audience. However, they wouldn't do I don't experience that here in the UK in regards to sport. It's a broadcaster for the sport, not for the team. And I guess with Sportsnet's a little bit different because, well, they own the Jays, right? So I guess it's going to be that way. But it was just a weird feeling watching. Bearing in mind, I've always watched. I remember when the games used to be on TSN.
Yeah,
many years ago. Like, it's always been a Blue Jays broadcast, apart from the postseason, obviously.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened like on a regular basis. And last year was a couple of games and it was done. But yeah, just something about it. It's not something I would advise doing. It didn't feel like I was watching a Blue Jays baseball game.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's really no storytellers in baseball anymore. Like, there's no Vince Scully's or John Millers or any of these type of individuals who can, obviously they're for one team because they're working for one team, but they kind of interweave and weave the other team's stories, like, something about Yasiel Puig or something about another player into their telecast, into their radio broadcast. And it's not like that anymore. It's almost like we got to talk about the home team. We got to push the home team. We got to sell the home team. And, they're entitled to do that. But I'd like to hear about someone on another team. I would like to hear about Jose Abreu on the Chicago Whites. I would like to hear a little bit more about another player, because that's how you grow the game, by introducing an audience to other players.
That's a very good point, because, and I'll tell you why, because I've said it before. I like baseball, and I'll watch the playoffs and I'll watch the World Series, but I won't sit there like Sheldon is now. He's probably watching 7 games while we're talking. But I won't watch the Rockies versus Tampa Bay. I have no interest in it because I don't know enough about these teams. And I just feel that there's no integration as a sport. It's very much us, and we don't really care about anyone else. And I just find it's just strange to me. But just talking about broadcasters quickly, Marcus Stroman.
Yes, saw that.
Like, I don't. The term, to me, I don't know it. It must be an American, or it must be a North American term, because I've not heard that before. And I like to think I like to think I'm a man of the world, but I've not heard it. What's your take on it? Like, did the commentator mean anything by it? Because it's very easy for someone else to blow this out of proportion. And I know that Marcus has made comment on it as well now, but what's your take?
I think the only thing I could find insensitive was the fact that he talked about Tom Seaver. I think Tom Seaver passed this year, if I'm not mistaken. So that to me, that would be might be a little insensitive to make a joke about Tom Seaver at this time.
But how does that come across as racist? And
I'm
not trying to blow this up, because I don't.
But I think they're talking about the fact that Marcus likes to wear a do-rag, and I think the comment was Marcus is wearing the same do-rag that Seaver wore X amount of years ago. That was that's what I read the comment word for word, and I'm trying to figure out. Okay. As a person of color, as a colored person, mixed races.
You're off color?
Well.
Oh yeah, sorry. I just thought it was a screen.
And I got a little bit of white here too, so this is white right there.
Santa Claus.
I can't honestly say it's a racist comment. I mean, I'm one of those people that if I see a racist comment, I'm the first one jumping from the rooftop saying it's a racist comment. But I can't see this one. I honestly can't. I think it was blown out of context in a different direction than it. I could have seen someone say, "Look, man, don't talk about Tom Seaver at this time. It's not the smartest thing to do." But everybody wears do-rags, man. I wear do-rags when I play sports.
To stop your hair from getting wet, yeah?
Pretty much. That's good. If sometimes depending on where I'm working and depending on the environment of that workplace, if I'm training a class and people got do-rags, I don't tell them to take it off. Hey, man, I think it's cool, wear it, right? If that's the company policy and you're about to wear it, by all means, wear it. I don't see it. I think Marcus is kind of stirring the pot a little bit with his response to me.
But he wasn't the one that brought this up, though, right? I saw this.
Marcus made a comment on it
way after, though.
No, I wouldn't say way after. He just said something like, how Marcus, he goes on Twitter and says something.
Trouble likes to follow him around, though, doesn't it? It's not the first time that he's been controversial or involved in something controversial. But I just didn't see. I couldn't see what the big thing was, and I'm not trying to belittle it or anything along them lines. But I thought that maybe you guys might have an insight to it, because I was kind of oblivious to the whole thing.
Unless somebody's passing by him, because Rob's. I'm old enough to be Rob's dad, man. He's like 20. So
on the dot, man. On the dot.
Same here. We're the same age, right?
Well, I'm 44. You're what, 40?
44.
44. Yeah, so we're the same age. So yeah. Rob is our son.
Mum and dad. Mum and dad.
Unless like Rob's younger, so maybe there's something there that I don't know about. Maybe Rob knows about that I don't.
No, honestly, well, I heard about the incident. I didn't quite review the video on my own, but the way I saw Strowman getting upset about it on Twitter, like to me, like my initial reaction when someone gets offended is, I'm not someone in this category who obviously is subject to getting offended. So therefore, I don't think it's my place to comment on what should offend someone and what shouldn't. So to me, it's, if it upset him, it's more within his right to call a person out about it. I really didn't have a problem with it, honestly, that he was upset about it and commented on Twitter. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I'm kind of in your ballpark, not too entirely sure what exactly went down, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, unless Mark doesn't come out and explain as to what it is that got him upset, then then it's like educating the masses, right? Okay, now we know, but I can't. As of right now, I can't see something there, right? I mean, it's not like I don't know. I just can't. I don't know what was in there that got.
He probably
upset.
got annoyed because he gave up a hit straight after the guy said it. So
yeah, subliminally knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, let's Marcus is a great pitcher. He's very outspoken. Most of the time, he's kind of bang on with what he says, and there are times where he goes beyond something. So, again, if Marcus Stroman could educate most of the people, because I think some people, I don't know, like what was there that offended him?
Yeah. If I had to say anything, obviously as someone who's, watched Marcus Stroman and covered him for a number of years here, relatively close. Well, obviously, from an angle, I'm not in the ballpark every day watching his every start, but it's he's a person who definitely, he has a lot of pride. He's not someone who will be quiet when he thinks he's being disrespected, regardless of who it's coming from. We had that incident with who was on the Red Sox, but I think Dennis Eckersley a few years ago, his last year here. So I guess I'm not all that surprised that he, was outspoken about this issue. And, like I said earlier, if it's something that he feels he was being disrespected for, it's well within his right to be upset about it. And, he's a guy who he's accomplished a lot. He said in his tweet yesterday, he's a Duke graduate. He runs multiple charities. He's a great pitcher, as we all know. So I think he definitely has the pedigree to voice his opinion publicly. And he absolutely, if it's something that upset him, why not? I don't have a problem with it personally.
I'm gonna say publicly that I'm offended that my Blue Jay center teammates are not wearing their Yankees hats.
I told you, man. There's not a bet out there. There's not a bet out there.
Oh man. Right. Okay. So before we go any further, a bit of housekeeping is in order, probably. 2 months in.
Yep.
Are we happy where we are at the moment? Could we be better? Could we be worse? What are we thinking?
I think they're kind of right where I expect them to be, if I'm being honest. Now, coming into the year, I expected that George Springer would be playing every day. I expected that Alejandro Kirk wouldn't have been hurt, and right now we haven't really had any updates about him. I didn't expect Ross Stripling to be pitching every fifth day coming into the year. I didn't expect the bullpen to completely fall apart in terms of injuries. Every day we have a new guy going down like a fly. Yesterday was AJ Cole. I'm very surprised to see who it's going to be this upcoming series because it's going to happen.
I got my money on Payex.
Oh, don't say that. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. He saved us big time yesterday. I think overall you're okay with it. We said at the beginning of the year that the schedule from the start of the year to mid-June is going to be very front-loaded, and that if they can kind of, I guess, were tap dance around that schedule and just kind of stay a few games over 500, that they were in prime position to go on a splurge here after June, because after this 13-game series against the White Sox, the Astros, the Red Sox, the Yankees, their schedule gets pretty favorable for the most part. There's obviously going to be some tough games in between there, but you got a lot of Orioles, a lot of Seattle, a lot of Detroit, a lot of Minnesota, who's been bad. So I think for the most part, if you were optimistic about this team making the playoffs coming into the season, I don't see why you would be any less optimistic at this point. So I'm happy.
Given the rash of injuries that they've been having, I think where they're at right now is that should be on my expectation. I figured they'd be, kind of treading 500, but they're more than a few games over 500. So, like what Rob was saying, the schedule becomes more favorable. And hopefully Springer comes back and goes off and, posts at least 20 plus home runs by the rest of the season by the end of I think 30 is out of the question. That might be too much even for him. But, I don't, did anybody, at the beginning of the season, did anybody think that Vladdy would go on this tear that he's been on?
Yeah,
I think we
did.
all.
I did.
Yeah. Hands down, man.
I thought he would have hit 50 homers by now, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I feel a little bit let down.
I think we all expected improvement, but nothing like what we're seeing, where he's at the top of the leaderboard.
Unbelievable what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah. Did anybody think Randall Grichuk would be beyond
2.0?
Whatever. 2.0, yeah, man. I don't think anybody expected that either.
Yeah, I did.
And did anybody expect?
But see, the thing about Grichuk is though, is this really an anomaly though? This is kind of who he's been his whole career. Is it?
I think we would have seen a tailspin by now. To be honest, we would have seen something. But he's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, he has been.
But he's been consistently good this year, whereas before he's been consistently. He's been all right,
consistently bad.
He's been all right, but now he's. I'm trying not to say that the guy's a bad player, man. I would take 25, 30 home runs from him and good defense in right field any day. But this year he's been and there was that expectation that he was going to be the fourth outfielder. He was not going to be getting the amount of bats, and here he is, literally filling in for George Springer, guy who was brought in to essentially replace him a little bit. So did anybody think Robbie Ray would do what he's doing? I mean, we saw glimpses of it, but we don't expect it to be like this. So, they beyond my expectation. I thought they would be treading 500, but where they are right now, and as Rob had said, the schedule gets. I want to say easier. I don't want to say easier because you don't want to discount those teams that are struggling, because we've seen it in every sport. Teams that are not doing well end up having the number of a team that's doing really, really well somehow, some way. Yeah. This ended. Hold on for a second. I'm just gonna make sure.
Just quickly. We've talked about it. And I kind of want to. I haven't had a chance to look. Is there any sort
of the Leafs lost?
Is there? Dude, I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. I love Toronto. I love Toronto sports, but the Leafs and the ice hockey. It's not for me. It's not for me. It's the quicker we move on, the better.
More baseball anyway. It's always better.
George Springer, Julian Merriweather. I'm trying to think who else. Is there any updates? Do we know what's happening with them at the moment?
Right now, it seems like the only updates we're ever getting on Springer is that he ran the bases the other day and that he's expected to do the same thing and catch fly balls. So basically, to code that, it's basically saying that George Springer is alive and he could be playing baseball sometime in the next few months. That's what I got from it.
Okay.
Not very helpful.
Yeah, it's we're in summer now. It's really hot in the UK, and if it's hot in the UK, it is no longer spring. I don't care what anyone says.
I think spring comes in July. I think Springer returns in July. I don't know if
after the All-Star break.
Before the All-Star break.
You think it'll be before?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I think they're going to run him out there in center field for those few games. Things like 7 or 8 games before the All-Star break, and then he'll have the 3 days off because of the All-Star break, and then they're going to reassess where he is physically. But
does he go to the minors? Does he get a rehab stint somewhere?
He should.
Eventually he will. Once he's ready, he's absolutely going to get a rehab stint. That's usually how it goes. The Blue Jays have always done that, so I don't see why he'd be any different.
Just because he's George Springer and we're paying him $150 million to eat McDonald's at the moment. But...
But Jose Bautista, when he was injured, he had to have rehab stints as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, Bautista
he had a
whole
more
lot more pedigree.
Yeah, that's true.
But what I want to talk about though is I want to bring something up, and so I think it's very interesting. I hope it's just smoke and mirrors. It's nothing about it, and if for whatever reason something were to happen, don't blame me for it. Putting it out on the record, but Have you guys seen the splits between Vladdy's OPS home and away? You guys had the chance to look at that?
Are you kind of saying that Vladdy's dominance at home is nothing like what he does on the road?
No. All I'm saying is that, I mean, it's crazy. The variation is insane. I mean, we're talking 700 points between OPS. I thought that's kind of interesting.
I have to look at it because I'm kind of curious myself.
So he's hitting 700 points over at home.
Yes, he's got a 1500 OPS at home and an 800 OPS on the road. That's insane.
And then at 800 OPS, we're looking at that as though it's bad, right?
No, yeah, telling me the 800 OPS is still a really good number, but I'm just saying I heard this comment on the Good Show the other day. I think JD Bunkus, friend of the show, by the way, he said that if a Colorado Rockies player was putting a B's home and away discrepancy, we're smacking the fraud button as quickly as possible.
Okay,
but, I'm just saying, it's like would you take any stock in that, or is it just more? Well, what do you think? But don't forget too, it's players typically hit a lot higher at home than they do on the road in general, regardless of the ballpark.
But not 700 points different,
yes,
though, right?
700. That's insane. That's insane.
So I mean, I'm actually looking at the numbers right now, and Rob's hit it right on the head. Like 807 is nothing to be sneezing at with an OPS, but
it's very good.
But the numbers at home are just he's literally got 668 points higher at home. That's sick. That's like that's like a Kevin Biggio in there somewhere. Like you just added Kevin Biggio's numbers and you added to Vladdy's home numbers and out popped Super Vladdy. That's basically what it looks like. The number, and Rob's not gonna like when I say this, but the number that I'm seeing the discrepancy that I see is that batting average: 430 at home, 259 on the road. Now that could be a whole bunch of different factors. We know that, but that the number beside it, the OPS, the on base percentage is pretty good. 360 versus freaking video game numbers he's posting at home. We kind of see it's a Colorado effect. I don't. Maybe it's because it's Vladdy. I'm not going to say it, but it does. Like Robert said, does it bring a question?
Well, his numbers have grown over the last month or so. And is it possible that we've just played a lot more games at home recently?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility.
I don't know, because like you look at his performances, he had it was a road trip when we were at Yankee. No, where were we?
Actually, he's not played more games at home. He's played more games on the road. 31 games on the road, 23 games at home.
But then that would make sense as well, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
because obviously more games.
Size,
yeah. So I don't know. Like for me, he's been good all season, but there have been periods where we've seen him and he's not looked right. We had the conversation about 2 weeks ago. Remember, I said to you, I was like, Vladdy just didn't look right. He was swinging at balls that were miles off the plate, and he did that for 2 games. But then he went and hit 2 homers straight after. So it's numbers. Do you know what the problem is? Is that you lot get so fixated with these numbers. Do you know the numbers? The only numbers that matter to me is the wins and losses.
What's that?
The wins and losses.
That's fair.
I
think too to add to that,
you get so drawn. You get so drawn on these numbers, though.
Because it's fun.
I think to add to that is if it was someone who just hit blue singles across the field, you're like, okay, yeah, maybe there is a fraud element to it. But Vladdy, I mean, he has the hardest hit percentage in all of baseball. I mean, it's when you're hitting a ball 110 miles per hour, it doesn't matter what ballpark you're hitting in, right?
Yeah, it's going. It's just
the Placata effect.
Yeah, but you're basically saying you're saying that what Glasnow said last week is true. You're basically saying that we're stealing signs, right?
No, I'm not saying that. If the Jays were to be stealing signs, I'd have no problem with that. It's baseball. Sign stealing happens. As long as there's no visual technology and garbage bins involved, I don't care. That's how it works.
For me, the numbers that I look at is what they do in games that they've lost. What was their production in games that they lost? And Vladdy's numbers are huge in games that the Jays unfortunately lost in. I mean, his OPS is 974. That's sick.
Yeah, but what's his numbers in losses in wins? It's got to be 1300 or something
Oh,
like
it's
that.
12-12. It's 12-12.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
That's what
I'm saying, but for me, like I would look at what do they do in games that they lose, right? What kind of production are they producing? And honestly, it's I want to say it's super close, but it's comparable, right? In terms of their numbers, what he does in wins, what he does in losses. To me, that shows that he's been very consistent in every single game. His approach doesn't change. I mean, obviously he can't control wins and losses, but he's doing everything he can to make the team win or help the team win. And that OPS in losses is pretty big. I wouldn't go with the Colorado effect.
Are we looking at potential triple crown here?
Yes.
I think so. I mean, I said in our post-game show a while ago that, look, guys, I mean, triple crown, there's been 2 in 60 years. Like, it's insane to have that kind
Cabrera, right? He was the last. Was he the last one to do it?
He was the last one, and then there was Cabrera in 2012, and then I think it was Carl Yastrzemski in '67. Those are the last 2 to do it. I think it's very legitimate. He absolutely could do it. You're just looking at the numbers right now in terms of average. He's near the top. Home runs, he's leading it in the AL by a few at this point. And RBIs, I think last time I checked, he was 1 or 2 behind Mercedes from Chicago.
Fifth, he was like fourth, third.
Right now, he's definitely a threat.
Yeah,
I checked on
I wouldn't
Tuesday.
put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him. Let's put it that way.
And I don't think the Triple Crown is really as huge of an accomplishment as it once was, because I think as advanced stats have come in, batting average and RBIs are not necessarily as highly valued. But that'd still be an incredible feat. I mean, the fact that only 2 people have done it in 60 years, that's insane.
I think he's got a really good chance of getting the Triple Crown. Or you know what? If he doesn't get it, the numbers he's going to post up is going to be very, very close or very, very similar to what Carlos Delgado posted up in 2000 with the 344 and 41 home runs and 137 RBIs. Vladdy may get more than 200 hits. Carlos Delgado in that season had 196. So
he got walked a lot though.
Yeah, and I think he had like 120 something walks. Vladdy's well on his way to getting 100.
They can't. I know that it happened with the whole intentional walk for Vladdy, but who's walking Vladdy when Teoscar's coming up behind? It's very much Bautista, Edwin, right? Like you wouldn't fancy your chances against either of them. And when you look at our lineup, when it goes as it stands at the moment with their current performances, when you've got Simeon, Bo, Vladdy, Teoscar, you're not walking Vladdy like Delgado used to get walked. He had no one else.
If I had
still
to pick,
walking him though.
If I had to pick,
yesterday was different though, right?
But who would you rather pitch to, Vladdy or Teoscar?
Yeah, it's gone to the point where the line of protection is so good, but it's like Barry Bonds-esque, where it's like even though you had good hitters in front of or behind him, it's like, okay, they're still not Barry Bonds. I'd still rather face them than have to pull up a guy who's got a 1400 OPS and he's gonna almost guarantee to hit a 600-foot bomb against me.
Yeah, and remember, Teoscar, Randall, and Lourdes do strike out a lot. If you take a look at their strikeout numbers, they do post some big strikeout numbers from time to time. So it doesn't mean that they're easier to pitch to or they're easier hitters to go after. It's just that you may have a better chance of getting a strikeout or getting them out versus Vladdy, who is more than willing to take a walk if he needs to.
How good has Vladdy's walk rate been? Sorry, pardon me, the strikeout rate. It's been extremely low. Even last year, in a year where I think a lot of people will suggest he's had a pretty underwhelming 2 months, but his strikeout rate has been very low so far.
It's equal to his walks, I think.
Yeah, I think if I'm mistaken, he's got 1 more strikeout than walk, and that's crazy. The fact that it's 2 months into the season, that's still the case.
Imagine Springer comes back and they leave the lineup as it is, and they put Springer batting 6th. I'm not saying that would happen.
there may be a little bit of ego bruising involved with that one. Even though I think with Springer, I don't think he'll make a big fuss, but eventually,
I think you're moving Bo down.
No, it'd be 4. No, it'd be 5th though, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be 6th. It'd be 5th. That's crazy. But if Marcus Simeon carries on playing like he is now, and I'm the front office or I'm the folder creator, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, why on hell would I change a winning formula? Let's just say that we're 10, 12 games above 500. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if we were 10, 12 games above 500, we are 2 games off top spot, maybe even top. Do you seriously come in and change that?
Yes.
I think the change that's going to happen is that Bichette ends up moving down, not Simeon. I think that's what we're headed for. I think we'll see
Springer would go to?
Yeah.
No, I
Simeon.
think Springer would lead off and Simeon would go 2. And Vladi Teoscar stay at 3 and 4. You move Grichuk to 6 and hit Bichette 5th. I think that's what we're headed for.
But even that's what I mean. But even still, though, like you listen to what you just said. Simeon, Springer, Simeon, Vladi Teoscar, then Bo. Like Bo, look,
it's insane.
Hacks
it's insane.
Everything.
Yeah.
Hey man, if the 1993 Blue Jays could move Molitor and Alomar around that lineup because they got Henderson, there's no reason why these Jays can't do the same thing.
Yeah, and that was a big thing, wasn't it? It was like I remember being in Canada when Henderson signed, and I remember like, most of it we'd be driving around here and there, and it'd be like Henderson's coming in, he's gonna be lead off, and everyone was like, one, we don't really need him. Because that was the feeling back then, wasn't it? Was he really?
Well, the feeling was they were going after Henderson and Randy Johnson simultaneously, and if Ricky didn't okay the trade, they were going to go directly towards Seattle and acquire Randy Johnson, and Steve Karsay was a part of that deal. But then Oakland accepted Steve Karsay and Jose Herrera, I believe it was, for Ricky Henderson. And when it was announced, a lot, like you were saying, a lot of people were speculating, like, okay, where does Henderson fit in this lineup? And then, well, Devon White bats second. Well, where does Roberto Alomar go? He bats third against right-handed pitching. Where does Paul Molitor go? He goes sixth. He protects John Olerud.
Yeah.
Where does Tony Fernandez go? Because when Tony Fernandez was acquired, he was protecting John Olerud, and he was doing a really good job doing it. He bats behind Paul Molitor. So
I'm trying to think who was leading off before Ricky came.
Devon White.
That's it, Devon White. Yeah, of course.
And
the bottom line is the Jays lineup's going to be really good, regardless of what variation you throw out there.
Sorry, are we boring you with the old talk? You know, the stuff.
No, absolutely. And, you know, always good at sitting here and collecting knowledge like a sponge. I'll take it.
Because you know what, when comes the next trivia, he's going to try and use it against me.
Oh, okay. The 545 was lucky, man. Yeah, come on, that was luck.
Like, let's talk Blue Jay. Let's talk Kings of Trivia quickly,
Sure.
because we haven't brought it up. Obviously, like I've had Sheldon on probably the most on my show, and I understand how knowledgeable he is when it comes to Yankees, but I mean Blue Jays baseball. But you guys were obviously playing. Now, obviously, the questions, I randomly choose these questions. I just read up on a load of stuff and think, oh, that'd be quite a cool question. And then obviously with the nearest to the pin stuff, I'm kind of making them up as I go along. As a player, bearing in mind you guys were leading at one point, like what was it like playing against someone that literally is pulling numbers out of the air like he did the other day?
It's tough, man. It's tough. I thought after that second round, our chances were really good. The nearest to the pin strategy, that's basically what you're trying to do is you want to have as conservative of a number as possible because you can't go over, right? So the goal is to be very conservative because the probability of getting it right on is very low unless obviously you're Sheldon and you have the answer tattooed to the back of your head. But yeah, you kind of want to go conservative, but you also want to go high enough where you're higher than your opponent. So there's a lot of moving parts to that. There's obviously you kind of think the question about the doubles, it's really hard because I think to me doubles is a stat that has a lot of variation. Some years you hit 45, some years you hit 29. It's very difficult. At least with home runs, a lot more linear, I'd say. So it's definitely tough, man. Especially when you're going against some guys who clearly know their stuff.
Yeah, but like I'm I'm a little bit shocked that they won, if I'm honest. To like and not through their knowledge knowing. Like I just assumed that because Steve was so intoxicated that he would have
Wow, poor Steve.
he would have been he deserves to be bashed a little bit. Like I think he
Well,
knows
Steve got a whole bunch of answers right. Like
did, and that was what was even more amazing about it, because I thought that he would push for his answers and they'd be really off. But like even he was close. Like it was interesting seeing everyone. One thing I have learned is that there's no point doing it with all of you guys and there being too many questions about the old stuff, because anyone sort of under 35 was lost.
Yeah, but they got 3 points and we had 2, man. Rob and James took it to us in the first round.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised you on that one. I think my Alfredo Griffin question really saved us. The one that we got.
I wanted to start off with an easy question that I thought the majority of you could get. What I didn't realize was that probably apart from Sheldon, Steve, Rob, and James, they're the only ones that were really going to get that.
91 draft pick was tough as well. Mostly because you got to consider, you look at those 93, 94, 92, 93 World Series teams. If that player was a part of those teams, they would have had to have been a rookie. And you kind of go through a list of those teams, those high-power Blue Jays teams, whether it's Robbie Alomar, Tony Fernandez, you just go down the list. Obviously, most of those weren't homegrown prospects. So all the high-caliber names, the Ricky Hendersons, Paul Molitor, Pat Warders, it couldn't have been any of those guys. So you have to really think outside the box to get that one. And I ended up going Carpenter, and
but you weren't that you weren't that far off with Carpenter. I mean, I think that this is what we noticed with the difference between baseball, what I grew up with what Rob and James and the younger group is. As soon as someone is drafted, you see them very quickly in the majors within maybe a year or maybe or a lesser time. Whereas when in my era, we kind of knew who was getting drafted. It wasn't as televised or as popular as it is now. But once you knew someone was a number one pick, you knew you weren't seeing them for 3 or 4 years. They were going to A ball, double A ball, triple A, and then make their ascent to the majors. And that's the difference. I think like for Rob to even say Chris Carpenter, I was like, man, he's like so close. He's really, really close. And no, like Steve and I talk about that every day. Like Rob was close with that one, right? And that's the difference of the game. Like Rob and these guys, I mean, they were born in the 2000s. They're kids. And not just not being disrespectful, but you guys are young. You're a young generation, so you see things a little bit different than Jay and myself and Steve, because that generation did things differently. Right?
And I need glasses as well. That's why I see different things differently. My eyesight's terrible. Just quickly, just while we're talking about Kings of Trivia. So I actually posted the advert on TikTok, and you're all becoming very famous on TikTok. Really? Now I have no following. I have no following. However, I posted the video yesterday, and I think it's had nearly 1,000 views already. So yeah, I think it was Steve and his request of going for a drink midway through filming. But either way, if you start getting people adding you on Instagram, it's because of the video on TikTok.
Cool, man.
Okay.
You will be as famous as Zach before you know it.
I never thought I'd be a TikToker or whatever they're called now. So cool. That's interesting.
But no,
how long until we see you dancing on TikTok, Sheldon?
See, there is a problem with that because my belly is really, really big. So I have to lose that first before I do any dancing.
Once you upload your first video, that's when you'll see me wearing a Yankees cap. Bet on it.
Oh, you all heard it here, right? You all heard it, right?
I'm putting it out there, man.
Oh, man. Okay, just quickly. Predictions for Houston coming up?
Oh, do we know who's pitching for the Astros?
And hasn't been released yet. That's on my knowledge.
I believe Greinke and Urquidy is going. They win the Ryu game. I think they squeeze out one more. I'll say 2 out of 3.
Chicken strip dinner.
Yeah. You got to win one of those, whether it's Mats or whether it's Stripling. They got to pull one of those out, man. I feel like losing 2 out of 3 is going to suck because right now you look at it, the Jays are probably going to be a wild card team this year, and one of the teams that they're going to be contending with is the Astros. So beating them is going to be huge.
So I think we're all agreed that we're going to take the Houston series.
I hope.
I think that we'll take two out of 3 at least. But I think we're on a roll at the moment. Like I think that I've read that we last 8 games were 6-2.
Yep.
So
2 out of 3 against the Yankees, 2 out of 3 against Cleveland, last 2 against Miami would make 6 out of 8. Yes.
So I think that puts us in good stead. It's good to see that the Yankees, Tampa Bay, Red Sox, they've all dropped a few games. Obviously, they playing each other. They're all going to be playing each other now as well. We've been the team that's been in that position, and now they're all going to start playing each other a bit more. I think that
unless Orioles games.
For them, like again, we still haven't faced them.
Yeah, 1/5 of our schedule in the last 95 games of the year is the Orioles. We got to capitalize on that.
I hope so, because we have a tendency to sometimes not do particularly well against them, and that does concern me. But I think that come the end of June, we may be looking at a actual contender. I think that's how it looks. But it's going to be interesting the next 2 weeks. If we can get through this week coming, starting tomorrow, and the following week, because it's like Boston and
Chicago
and the Yankees again, isn't it? I think if we can get through, these 2, I'm surprised I actually remembered that myself. If we can get through those 2 weeks, and we can get out of it just over 500 for them, like 12 games or 15 games or however many it is, we've got a really good chance, and hopefully we should then start seeing. Obviously, we touched just briefly as well. Like we mentioned Springer, we didn't say anything about like Merriweather and stuff. Has there been any no news on them either, or is it just a case of everyone has fatigue until we're told differently?
I think it's the latter, man. I think it's the Merriweather. We heard that he could be back end of July. I think that's kind of the best case scenario from like stuff that I've heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much about Julian Merriweather. I haven't heard too much about Kirk either. So that's kind of concerning when you're not hearing a lot of news about those guys.
Reese McGuire's been pretty good though, right? Just touching. We haven't really mentioned him at all. He's done okay.
Do you guys know the meme where it's like the movie hero, then the actual hero? You guys seen that meme? Yesterday, the movie hero was Joe Panic. The actual hero was Reese McGuire. We're getting on base and start to turn the lineup over.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I kind of looked at him when we acquired him. I said, man, this guy could be a Aaron Fletcher type of catcher, left-handed, gives you a little bit of offense. I'm not saying he's the cure to the catching position offensively, but he's been doing really well. He's been filling in. He's done well. He's done well.
He seems to me like he's playing more games than Danny is at the minute.
I think it's kind of a personal pitcher-catcher relationship kind of thing. It's Manoah and Ray are packaged with McGuire, while Stripling, Ryu, obviously, and Mats, Danny Jansen's been the guy that they're rolling with. So I think that's kind of the pattern that we've seen.
Right. Well, I think unless you guys have anything else to add, I think we're probably about done. There was some stuff that we discussed on camera that we're going to have to edit out. We won't tell it, but we're going to use it as blackmail against Rob. So Sheldon, just keep that in mind. If we ever need to get him, we've got it.
I'm saying right now, if the Jays don't win the series against Houston, I'm wearing a Houston Astros hat every day next week on Blue Jay Center.
Damn. Okay.
Wow.
Go Jays, man. We gotta put an end to that. We can't let that happen.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that's gonna happen because I hope it doesn't. But because I'm not keen on Houston. But if you have to go on Blue Jay Center wearing a Houston hat, you are gonna get destroyed.
In the comments.
You are gonna get Tanner Rourked.
I'm so confident in the Jays sweeping the Astros that
Dude,
I don't have to.
I'm with you. Like we've said, you're very rarely wrong. So
If I can't find a Houston Astros hat in this city, which is possible, I will put a garbage can over my head.
I mean, that's is that much far off though?
They're one and the same. We all know that.
Yeah, exactly.
we still got to get Zach back on to lick a toilet, I believe. But
your show has gone from straight up BJ talk to toilet licking and garbage can wearing.
Ah, man, yeah, and just know, do you know what's really funny is that you've been involved in both.
I had nothing to do with the toilet licking, man.
It was you and your stripling prediction, wasn't it?
Probably was.
You were the catalyst for it.
Yeah, it was you and your. Zach said you basically said that Stripling would go 6 or 7 innings. I can't remember exactly what it was. And Zach said if it happens, he will lick a toilet. So we'll have that at some point on Jay's Talk with Jay. But yeah, very.
We're holding Zach accountable for that. We're not letting that slip.
Yeah, so we will get him. We will get him at some point, guys. As always, a massive pleasure. Don't forget, people, you can catch these two over on Blue Jay Center at some point during the week.
And it's just as fun too.
Yeah,
and it's just as fun.
It's always fun, especially at 4:30 in the morning. Fan Take Friday tomorrow. I'll definitely be tuned in for that. Don't forget, Mama Manoa will be on. We think it's tomorrow. Rob's not 100% sure. Like you'd think that he like run it or something, but obviously not.
Mo's taking it by the horns, and he just told me to stay out of it. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll just sit here and indulge in my pain from my COVID side effects.
And, yeah, you actually do look ill. You should have said that you were ill. I would have brought you some grapes or something.
I'll be all right. I'll be there on Fan Take Friday. Nothing will stop me from that. You can count on that.
Cool. Guys, as I say, thank you. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to head over to YouTube, like, subscribe. If you haven't seen Kings of Trivia or the Blue Jay Center special, make sure you go and do that. There are some very, very interesting, funny moments. But we won't say anything more on that. We won't spoil. Well, I say we won't spoil one it because if you watch the whole of this video, you already know that the champ is here. If you consume a podcast over on Spotify, Apple Music, Rob's shaking his head. Look, he hates it. He's like, I can't believe we lost.
Still salty about that.
I think anybody who gets Lewis on their team will be a strong contender to the title. So that's all I'm going to say about
anybody who gets who?
Lewis.
Oh yeah, right.
Even Anne, if Anne picks Lewis, she's a contender to the title.
And catching another stray from Sheldon. Whoa, what's going on here?
when you go 0 for on a trivia, then and Cole too, man. But Cole was open. He said, "Yo, dude, I suck." So I can't get mad at him for that.
He set the bar low.
and you know what? This was all Jay's fault. If Jay didn't think about Kings of Trivia, we wouldn't have known any of this stuff.
It started off as something very funny, but now it's turned into like a thing. Like, I don't know how it's turned into a thing, but now it's going to be. We're still waiting. To be fair, like we have Sheldon, Steve, and you against Zach, Adam, and another. I wonder who that another's going to be.
That's going to be an absolute destruction. It's going to be like Godzilla terrorizing. We're going to let Rob take the lead on that, and the two old guys are going to sit back and just let Rob destroy them.
I'm going to see if Mike Wilner can join them.
We'll destroy him too.
Really?
I would love to, but something tells me Wilner's too busy for the real Jay's Talk, and I think he's still bitter from the fake Jay's Talk, like getting rid of him. So I'm not sure that's going to happen.
That was legendary.
Try and get Buck Martinez. I think all of us want to go up against Buck Martinez.
Have you guys ever called into that Jay's Talk before?
What, the fake Jay's Talk? I've actually called from here in the UK.
Really?
Yeah, I never got through, but I've actually called from here in the UK. I wanted to slam them. I got what it was.
I got through a couple times, and I didn't. I wasn't one of those, get rid of Ari Dickey guys that Mike would have instantly hung up on. But I think I asked about Martinez, the possibility of bringing him in. Mike told me that he'd rather have Lorenzo Cain next year. Martinez wins the World Series with the Red Sox, but that's neither here nor there.
No, I remember Wilner when I was growing up. Wilner and another person had a cable talk show, and it was about sports, and he had that way back then. And when you're 13 years old, calling in against Mike Wilner, who nobody knew he was going to be this Mike Wilner. No, he was still the same. If somebody said something crazy, he'd shut him down completely. As someone who watched him grow up, all the success he's gotten, props to him. But Jay, you need to get like a Blue Jay on this show so that Rob can trash him.
Who might trash him?
It's done. Rob's the one with the contacts. Like, Rob, do it. I don't care who's. Preferably someone that doesn't speak English.
Well,
we can get Luis to translate then.
We'll bring someone on your show, Jay. We'll make it work.
J Stock trivia with Blue Jays versus the Blue Jay Center.
Imagine that if we could get like 3 ex-players to play against you 3.
We'll make it work. We'll get something. We'll get something cooking.
There you go. There you go. What a way to end the podcast. God, this has been long. We've been recording for ages. Guys, we will catch you soon for another edition of Jay's Talk with Jay. But for now, we'll see you later. Go Jays.
Go Jays.